Hey everyone, and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where it is time for us to enter Turn 12 with the Binding Coils of Bahamut. Alright, so this time around, it took us 2 weeks to do this. We did 70 minutes the first week, and then we cleared it the second week. And we cleared it real fast. This is apparently, according to friends who did this at launch, the hardest raid in the Binding Coils. So I'm very proud of how well it ended up going for us. It helps that we very, very carefully studied the mechanics beforehand, which definitely made it a lot easier. Alright, so as usual, we are doing post-commentary. Do not go to turn 4, we are not going to turn 4, we're going to turn 3. But as usual, doing post-commentary, just so we could focus on doing communication and callouts in our voice chat, and I can explain the mechanics now that we're done. Because this is an intense raid. This is a very intense but very fun raid.
Gods, he is almost whole again.
His size is staggering. I can scarce imagine how Grandfather stood against such a monstrosity.
This cannot be allowed to proceed any further. Let us disable the coil and move on. Grandfather? No, that man is dead. I will not dishonor my beloved grandsire's memory by calling you such. You are but his twisted shape, the thrall of a mad primal.
You were foolish to disregard my warning, child. Are you so convinced of your own righteousness?
'Tis the rightness of our path that led us to return. Eorzea will never be safe whilst Bahamut remains to threaten all we hold dear. What of the hero who gave his life in defense of the realm? Do you truly dispute the justice of our cause?
My poor, ignorant grandchildren. Your world is shaped by naught but recent conflict. Listen, and I will speak to you of justice. 'Twas in the twilight of the Third Astral Era. The southern land of Mericidia suffered invasion at the hands of the Alagon Empire. With no atrocity too depraved for their purpose, the forces of Alec were unstoppable in their advance. Desperate for salvation, the dragons prayed to one of their first brood, to their ancestor Bahamut. Infused by the power of their fervent supplications, Bahamut arose from the abyss of death and took wing as the Mericidians' newborn god. Yet this great miracle would only serve to further the maniacal designs of the dragon's imperial conquerors. The cruel fetters which bind my lord stand testament to the Alagon's boundless greed and hubris. I once summoned the 12 in an attempt to forestall the advent of the Seventh Umbral Era. What then did the dragons of Mericidia do that I did not? Wherefore are they accursed and I exalted? 'Tis man's overweening belief in his own primacy that blinds him to the commonness of his condition and the truth of his own tyranny. As long as man is suffered to remain, the dragons shall never be at peace. Only when the plague of people has been expunged shall the children of Lord Bahamut be free. Then shall the world know true justice.
Stop it! Grandfather would never say such things. His belief that people were worth saving never faltered. He had faith in their strength, that they could stand together and push back against the darkness seeking to shape them.
A false hope. 'Tis folly to place one's faith in so flawed a race. Stand together? Huh. They would first need to agree on which direction to face. If history teaches us anything, it is that man cannot find common ground between his own 2 feet. Even you, twins whose veins run with the same blood, struggle to fathom each other's reasoning. You hide your differing agendas behind the convenient banner of Eorzea's salvation. Given your obvious self-interest, can you truly claim no kinship with the Oligon? And though I hope they might bring you closer, 'twould seem that the twin grimoires I bestowed upon you were a wasted gesture.
There may well be truth in your judgment of Alize and me, but such a one-sided tirade bemoaning the evils of man rings false, coming from the lips of Archon Louisoix. Tell me, do you champion the cause of dragons because Bahamut compels you as his thrall? Or is it because you yourself have transcended the limits of man's existence?
Ah, so the possibility did not escape your notice. What I prayed for, and what I have become. These are the keys that unlock the truth behind Eorzea's rebirth. If you would have them, then you must needs take them by force. Come, rend this divine form asunder and claim your answers.
But I thought... No. He has become a primal?
It is difficult, I know, but you must accept it. That entity is no phantom or imposter. It is our beloved grandsire.
Please, for his sake and for ours, you must defeat our grandfather.
And so we begin, fighting Louisoix Levier, also known as the Primal Phoenix. Alright, this fight comes in 4 phases. We're going to go through them one at a time. First off, our party's just going over the mechanics real quick in our voice chat just to make sure we are all refreshed. So, we have 5 markers we're setting down, A, B, and C in the middle in a very specifically set up triangle. The positioning is very important. They need to be close enough together that you can actually reach Phoenix, far enough apart that they are far enough apart. We're also setting 1 at the south end and 2 at the northwest end. 1 and 2 will be used in phase 2, A, B, and C will be used in phase 1. So, while we are doing our discussions, let's start going over Phase 1 mechanics. So first off, the first mechanic to watch out for is Revelation. It is a tank buster cleave. So do not stand in front of the boss or you will get cleaved by this. If you get hit by Revelation, you'll get the debuff Revelation Resistance down, and this means that the next Revelation that hits you will be a guaranteed kill. Effectively, this is a tank swap. There's quite a bit of time, about a minute between each Revelation cast, so there is time for the tanks to swap, which is important because there's other things that tanks need to be doing in this fight. But just make sure, if you are the tanks, you are swapping at some point between each Revelation cast. It's better to do it sooner rather than later, but there may be instances where you have to hold off a little bit. Next up, throughout Phase 1 and 2 of the fight, there will be Benus that will spawn repeatedly. These are ads that'll spawn once a minute or so in the middle of the arena. What we need to do with them is the off-tank should take them to various locations around the arena, and the DPS should focus on killing them as they come up. They need to die in specific places around the arena. It doesn't have to be specific. The important thing is that the Benu corpses are far away from each other. If the corpses are too close together, things get really bad in Phase 3. So just make sure your Benus are dying and dropping their corpses far away from each other. What we're doing for our group is we're dropping them at the intercardinal. So northwest, northeast, southeast, and then southwest is the order we're doing our Benu kills. Next up is the big mechanic for Phase 1, Blackfire, Whitefire. A little bit into the fight, Phoenix will cast Blackfire. About 3 seconds after the Blackfire cast ends, the off-tank, 1 healer, and 1 DPS will all get a Blackfire dropped on them. This is just a puddle on the ground that you need to get the hell away from. In order to deal with this, we're having DPS stack at A, healer stack at B, and tank stack at C. That way, we can guarantee that the Blackfires will drop in on A, B, and C. As soon as Blackfire has spawned, you move away. We're not worrying about uptime because our gear is really, really good. Yeah, we're not too worried about uptime for this. Just when the raid first came out, you may have done things a little bit differently, but it's not too much of a concern for us nowadays. There's our first Benu spawn, where ranged DPS in particular are going to help with killing it. So Blackfire, what happens is, if you are standing on it for too long, it will explode. Kind of. It will explode and do a lot of damage and leave a Vuln stack on everyone nearby. But it also won't disappear. The Blackfire won't disappear from exploding. You have to actually kill it to get rid of it. There's the Blackfire spawns. So yeah, if you stand on it for too long, it will explode. If they are too close together, they will tether together and start exploding repeatedly. If you stand near it for too long, it will explode. So everyone moved away, and then you saw that 3 people got AoE markers over their heads and surrounding them. Those people have Whitefire on them. What they will do is they will drop the Whitefire so that it hits the Blackfire. You don't want to touch the Blackfire, but you want the AoE to hit the Blackfire, if that makes sense. Once the AoE hits the Blackfire will be considerably weakened, so the party will be able to move back in and kill the Blackfire before it starts really fucking people up. Once the Blackfires are down, the boss will keep going through a rotation of casting Blackfire until you hit 80% HP left. Once it hits 80% HP, we move into Phase 2, which we went into a long time ago. Once we're in Phase 2, Blackfire and Whitefire is no longer an issue, so we do not need to worry about stacking on A, B, and C anymore. A, B, and C are just for making sure the Blackfire lands in a predictable location, so that they're not too close together, so that we're not too far apart, so that the mechanics can be dealt with appropriately. First pull's not going great, but that's fine. It's a warm-up round, effectively. Alright, Phase 2 goes until the boss hits 52% HP. At the start of the phase, reading all this information off the Console Games Wiki, also worth pointing out again, just to give credit where it's due. At the beginning of the phase, the boss will mark either a ranged player or a healer with Brand of Purgatory. And this will debuff the player with either a green or a purple marker, and either Chain of Purgatory or Brand of Purgatory. So, you'll either get Chain of Purgatory or Brand of Purgatory on you. They are functionally exactly the same. They are there's no difference between them. I think it's just a different name for depending on which role gets hit. So, what will happen is, at some point in Phase 2, the boss will start casting Flames of Unforgiveness, specifically targeting whoever whoever at that moment has the Chain of Purgatory or Brand of Purgatory debuff. I'm just going to call it Brand of Purgatory for simplicity, but Brand of Purgatory, remember, also means Chain of Purgatory, they're the same thing. So the boss will start casting Flames of Unforgiveness on whoever has Brand of Purgatory. What you need to do is, if that Brand of Purgatory hits, if the Flames of Unforgiveness hits whoever has the debuff, they will just die outright. So what you need to do is have someone, you need 2 people assigned to swap the debuff back and forth between them. We decided to go with ranged DPS, so me and Navarin. What you do is you have one person run into the person who has the debuff as soon as Flames of Unforgiveness starts being cast. This will transfer the debuff to whoever touched the person with the debuff. It'll just physically move the debuff between them, and it will also do a bunch of damage to both of them, but it won't be lethal damage. The healers then need to heal up both players very quickly, and then Flames of Unforgiveness will land on whoever originally had the debuff, and they won't die. They won't die, they'll take a lot of damage, but they won't die. And then what'll happen just from then on is whenever Flames of Unforgiveness starts getting cast, the 2 players who are assigned to swap the debuff between them will just swap the debuff between them whenever Flames of Unforgiveness starts getting cast, just to make sure that they don't have the debuff on them when the attack actually goes off. That is the first major mechanic for Phase 2. The second and other major mechanic for Phase 2 is Blue Fire, Red Fire. You just saw Blue Fire explode on the right side of the screen. So what will happen is there will be a blue marker above someone's head that is Blue Fire. What we are trying to have them do is drop it at marker 1. So they'll go to marker 1, they'll drop the Blue Fire, and then they'll run away. After a little bit, the Blue Fire will explode and become that small blue burning puddle. We want to leave that alone. Don't touch it yet. Nobody touch it. At some point during Phase 2, a player will get a red fire orb tethered to them, like Avarin had just now. As she ran past me. You'll get a red fire tethered to you, just a red orb that'll just start chasing you down. It's very, very fast. If it touches anybody, it explodes, does vuln-ups and damage over time debuffs to the entire raid, so it's really nasty. To safely get rid of red fire, whoever has the red fire tethered to them needs to touch the blue fire puddle to get a debuff from it, and then physically run into the red fire. The blue fire debuff will protect you from dying to the red fire, or rather, it'll prevent the red fire from doing its nasty side effects. There are other ways where you have someone assigned to specifically pick up the blue fire puddle and then chase after the red fire, so whoever has the tether can be safely protected. We did not end up doing that. We found it much easier to just, whoever has the red fire on them will just grab the blue fire and then touch it. And then also, I forgot to mention, marker 2 we use for the Brand of Purgatory. If you get the Brand of Purgatory debuff on you, and you're not one of the ranged DPS, you move to marker 2. Marker 2 is basically where all the debuff swapping is going to happen. So you move to marker 2, one of the ranged DPS will take it from you, and then you can run away and go back to wherever you were. Phase 3 starts at 52%, and this is the ads phase. What will happen is all of the Benus will come back to life simultaneously. And Phoenix will repeatedly cast Flames of Rebirth. Every time Flames of Rebirth is cast, all of the corpses that are on the ground will revive. If there are any dead Benu corpses, they will revive as Big Benus. If there's more than one Big Benu, they have a risk of tethering together and becoming way stronger and becoming a massive threat to the party. So, and also with every cast of Flames of Rebirth, Phoenix gets a buff, making it even stronger. So our strategy is, we kill the first Benu at the middle of the arena. Then we move to the right side of the arena, weaken our next Benu but don't kill it. Wait for the big Benu to spawn. Once the big Benu spawns, we'll kill the next small Benu, and then rapidly kill the big Benu. This will be at the right side of the arena. Then we move back to center, we kill the next Benu and big Benu there, and repeat, swapping between the right, left, middle of the arena. The point is that we don't want the corpses to ever be really at risk of overlapping, because that can cause problems. Once all of the Benus have become big Benus and then died again, dying as a big Benu kills them permanently, we move on to the final phase, Phase 4. A brand new Purgatory will pop on someone. This time around, we are going to have the tanks be the ones who swap it between them. Just because there are no more Benus being spawned, so tanks don't have the Benus to worry about, so now they can focus on the debuff. It's much safer for them because they have a lot more health. I believe we typically have the off tank at any given time carrying the debuff. Next up, the second new mechanic is Fountain of Fire, this big AoE puddle next to us. It has a health bar, but we can't actually kill it. We can do damage, but it's not nearly enough to have an impact. What will happen is every few moments, it will tick. It will do... It'll tick down 1/8 of its health, and when it does that, if nobody is standing in it, Phoenix will get a stack of a buff. If somebody is standing in it, they will get a stack of a debuff, but Phoenix won't get buffed at all. The more stacks of debuff you have, the more damage you take from the Fountain of Fire. So what we do is we rotate who takes stacks of the debuff from Fountain of Fire just to make sure Phoenix doesn't get a buff. We have the off tank take 4 stacks, and then we have 2 DPS take 2 stacks each, one at a time. So we'll maybe do maybe Lavandula will take 2 stacks after Drosera's done, and then after Lavandula takes 2 stacks, then maybe Matrina will hop in for 2 stacks. There'll be 8 stacks total, so as long as none of those 8 stacks go to Phoenix, we should be fine. Next thing to keep in mind, if anybody dies in Phase 4, Phoenix gets a buff. The longer they stay dead, the more buffed Phoenix gets. So do not die in Phase 4. I know that's hard, but don't die. Last thing to worry about is the Phoenix Eggies. I guess there's 2 more mechanics to worry about. Phoenix Eggies will be the small phoenixes that spawn around the arena. They will either spawn in the middle of the arena, in which case they'll put a big line AoE pointing out towards an outer edge of the arena, and then they'll dash through. Just don't stand in line AoE and you'll be fine. They can also spawn at the edge of the arena, tethered to a player, and dash at them. You want nobody, except for the person tethered, to get hit by this. And to deal with that, we basically have everyone stand towards the outside edge of the arena as much as possible, so that if you are tethered to a Phoenix Eggie, you can just aim it right down the middle of the arena without needing to worry about it, without needing to worry about hitting anyone. It's the best strategy we had available to actually do that. Another strategy is everyone stands in the middle and you aim them kind of towards the edge. You just kind of stand next to the Phoenix and it just flies off. But I think it's less movement to have the middle clear and just have people aim the Phoenixes through the middle. Because you can run into the middle. Okay, we're almost done, so real quick, last thing to worry about. Every second Fountain of Fire, Phoenix will leave for a little bit, and we'll get a bunch of Phoenix Eggies doing dashes, and at the same time there will be a bunch of fire plumes in the ground, and that is all the mechanics. Holy fuck, this is a fight. And one thing I forgot to mention, my capture card was having a little bit of trouble the day we did this, so it actually dropped a few frames right there. Thankfully, it waited until the end of the fight to drop frames. Actually, there may have been a drop somewhere in, the fight itself, but I didn't notice it while watching back. But I was also focused on just explaining mechanics. Anyways, holy shit! We cleared Phoenix within 30 minutes of the... 30 minutes of starting for the day. That's really freaking good. I think it only took us about 4 pulls total. We went ahead and took a G pose just to celebrate. I think I forgot to adjust the depth of field. My mistake. Oh well. It still looks pretty good. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and chat for a little bit. Everyone's gonna go ahead and depart. And let's get on out of here.
Grandfather is truly gone this time, but better it end this way than the alternative.
I am yet here, Alice, my dear, sweet granddaughter.
Grandfather?
I must thank you, warrior of light. Without your valor, I might never have broken free of Bahamut's control. These last few moments are mine, to live as the man I once was.
This is all that I wanted. Yet, now that it is happening, I find myself struggling to believe it. Is it really you?
Grandfather, pray forgive me my insolence. It was not my intent to demean you.
Forgive you? I am proud of you, child. You were wise enough to deduce the manner of creature I had become. Alphino, Alize, if any here should beg forgiveness, it is I.
Grandfather, I must ask, will you not tell us what befell during the calamity?
Yes, yes, of course. You have come far to hear the truth. Let us then begin the tale at the Battle of Cartano, where clashed the forces of the Garlean Empire and the Eorzean Alliance. 'Twas there in the sky above the surging armies that the elder primal Bahamut broke free of the Red Moon Dalamut. In an effort to contain this avatar of destruction, I called upon the 12 to aid me in the creation of a prison of ether. But Bahamut would not be caged by such feeble bars. Too vast was his might, too fierce his rage. Little choice remained to me. I used the last of my strength to entrust our hope unto the future, and prepared to meet my end. As you have no doubt surmised, I did not perish. When the cage built from the essences of the 12 was destroyed, the sky was filled with a colossal cloud of ether. This drifting energy responded to the prayers of those fighting below, and to my own desperate wish that the dying realm be saved by infusing me with the power of a primal. I became the immortal phoenix, ancient symbol of rebirth. Rising into the sky, I struck Bahamut with all my newfound strength. The blow shattered his earthly form, and a shower of ether rained down upon the land. Thus began the rejuvenation of Eorzea. Believing the deed done, I relinquished my hold on that staggering energy, desirous that it should be returned to the realm without delay. But I had not reckoned on Bahamut's tenacious will. Even as he teetered upon the cusp of oblivion, the dragon reached out to claim me. Alas, within my fast fading form, enough remained of the Phoenix's energy to offer Bahamut a hold, and he dragged me along in his wake.
And thus began your existence as the Elder Primal's thrall.
I cannot help but wonder at his will to survive. Though he was all but obliterated, Bahamut found a way to seize the power you surrendered. That would explain why part of his physical form survived to be entombed underground.
It would also explain why Eorzea was so terribly warped. Even as the land sought to restore itself, the returning flow of ether was cut off.
Very good. When his grip on existence was once again secured, Bahamut did not cease his feast until he had consumed every last mote of ether that yet floated in the air.
And still he was not fully restored.
You must remember that by this time, much of the freed ether had already returned to the land. That which remained was not sufficient to reconstruct so massive a form in its entirety. But there did not need to be, not for a being sustained by the marvels of Allagan technology. As long as some piece of Bahamut persists, the Coils will seek it out and continue their regenerative task. The fragments of Dalamud appear motionless from the surface, but deep beneath the ground they had been searching, tunneling through rock and soil towards their escaped prisoner. And, as you have observed for yourselves, they found his heart. Warrior of Light, heed me. You must put a stop to Bahamut's regeneration. Whether it be for man or for dragonkind, the question of justice is irrelevant. The Elder Primal will leave naught but a smoldering wasteland for both his children and ours. I beg you to defend Eorzea and guide its people to the future they yet struggle to find. This portal will take you to the final Internment Hulk. 'Tis time for the tale of Bahamut and his part in the calamity to come to an end. Alvino, Alize, pray, come closer. Your hopes and dreams must no longer be an extension of mine. You must needs find your own reason to fight for this realm, your own meaning in this sea of chaos. Will you do that for me?
Of course, Grandfather. I have already made it my mission to see this newborn Eorzea survive and flourish.
Alize, while I was yet enthralled to Bahamut, you spoke of my faith in man's strength. Know that your words reached me, imprisoned though my soul still was. So forceful was your conviction, I wonder if that belief has not become your own. Perhaps, after all your anger and sorrow was spent, you found something greater within you. See this fight to its culmination. 'Tis also your strength in which I have faith.
Thank you for everything. Pray, take your rest, Grandfather. You deserve it.
There are records of an art that allowed one to summon the power of a primal from the essence of its demise. And though I am no true primal, all that I have left, I give to you. Alvino, Alize, my darling grandchildren. May light's blessings ever keep and protect you.
Come, Warrior of Light. Our task remains undone.
And that is the truth of what happened during the Calamity. Louisoix turned himself into a primal to protect the world from Bahamut. But in the process, he was possessed. Next time on Final Fantasy XIV, we're heading into the final coil of Bahamut. Turn 13, the end.